Hello everyone, I'm Colin Kinnett. I'm actually in the middle of a project right now, but I wanted to stop and take a minute to show you some of the little tricks that I've been using on this project. But before I do that, I want to remind you, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I invite you to do that. And let's get started over at the drill press. I'm remaking a fence for my router table, and I need to make this slot thing, but I'm not going to do a slot. I'm just going to do a countersink hole and then a through hole through it. So the first thing I did, this is just some scrap material so I can show you, but I'm using this white material, and what I need to do, I need to countersink to put this bolt in, and so I don't have the exact same dimensions as what they used there. So I drill a hole, and of course the bolt goes through, everything's nice, but guess what? The washer is just slightly too big. So now I have to re-drill that hole. And every time you re-drill a hole and you use the next bit size, it often moves around and it makes an ugly looking hole. And I didn't want to do that. So what I did is this. I found a piece of doweling that's actually about the right size, but it's actually a little bit tight in there, and that's good because if it's too loose, your little piece of dowel can spin around in there, which means the bit won't cut. So when I put that in there, and I also like to have it a little bit lower, just a little bit below, so I'm just going to bang that in because it is a little bit tight, and that's what we want. There we go. And I'm also going to make a little tiny hole with my awl, just right in the center, so that my new bit will be able to drill straight into that little hole. And now I can drill that hole out the proper size. Now in this case, that little piece of wood actually did start to spin, but look, I've already got started on a hole, so I can go back in now because that hole's already started, so I can go back in and still get a nice clean crisp hole. There you can see there's a little bit of tear there from that material, but now my bolt head will fit right in there, and so does the washer, and that's exactly what I needed. Now for this, it didn't really matter that I have a nice clean hole, but I wanted to show you what I did to do that. If I was doing this with furniture, what I would do and what I have done is actually glue these little round dowel pieces into the hole. I'll hammer them in and glue them, because as soon as that little dowel starts to spin in there, the drill bit won't cut. It just polishes the hole because it's just spinning this thing around in there. So just a little tip if you want nice clean holes and you need to re-drill them with a little larger size. Now while we're still at the drill press, another thing that I needed to do is to drill a hole in a piece of dowel, and if you've ever tried to do that, that's a bit of a challenge. Now there's a few different ways of doing that. What I did for this one was to drill a hole the size of the material that I'm using. Then I cut it with my table saw, and the reason for that is now when I put the dowel in, I can actually clamp that, and I don't have a clamp handy here, but I'm going to get one. And now it's not going to spin in there. Remember, I talked about the dowel spinning, and that's one of the problems that we have. So I can actually clamp that, and I can put it in here, and I'm going to do that in a second, is clamp it in there and drill a hole. But the other thing that I have done in the past is, if you don't have the right size dowel and the exact right size hole, here's another thing you can do. You can make a smaller hole. Now, there you can see that's quite a bit smaller hole than the dowel, and you can still do the same thing, because when you put the dowel in there and clamp it, that will still hold that vertical in your drill press. I would use one of these old-fashioned clamps, and that would hold that nice and firmly in there. It'll hold it vertical, and you'll get a good clamping effort and a good vertical hold. For this one, which is what I'm going to use, there's my dowel, I would put that in there. In this case, I'm putting it all the way down. And now I'm going to use this clamp, just an ordinary hand clamp. And there's one way of drilling a hole through a dowel. If you've been watching me for a while, you've watched me using my awl here, and this was originally a screwdriver that I purchased, and I was using it as a pry bar one day, and this shaft here actually broke. It snapped, and rather than throw this nice handle out, I decided to make an awl from it. But not long ago, I was at a swap meet and I noticed this screwdriver that somebody else had been using as a pry bar. You can see how warped it is. And this is a perfect candidate. I purchased this for, I think, 25 cents or 50 cents. And you know what? This is a perfect candidate for making an awl from, because it doesn't matter if it's a little bit bent. All you need to do is cut that off, sharpen it on your grinder, and now you've got a nice tool that you can hang on to for very little money. I'm just over at my router table for the next demonstration, but there's the new fence that I was installing, and you can see there's the new holes that I drilled. But that's what I'm here to show you. Today I want to show you this area here. Now, first of all, I've got a few different washers. They come in, of course, different sizes. And this is just a demonstration for something I had to do. I needed to make a line along a backing, and I didn't have the right piece of wood, and I couldn't figure out quite what to do. And then it struck me, somewhere in the bottom of my tool bag, I had some washers of different sizes, and I knew how far out I wanted to make this line so that I could recut it. And what I did, rather than try and guess at it, and I couldn't find a piece of wood, I just used a washer, and look at that. Nice, perfect all the way along, just with a simple washer. And now I could take that out and recut that to the proper size. Let me show you a close-up of that. Well, I didn't do a very good job of erasing the old line, but you'll see it anyway. And that's just how easy that works for making a new line there. Nice and crisp and even. Well, I'm back over at my table saw, and some time ago I showed you how I've been using this cord. You can see my remote hanging from a cord up here, and it's just on a magnet, and I can just pull it and I can start my dust collector. But the problem is that the cord works well, except because I have a ceiling that is a dropped ceiling and there's metal bars in it, but it's tough for me to always reach to get that down. And sometimes when I'm around a tool, I really don't want to be overreaching like that. So what I've done, I've changed things up a little bit. I'm actually using my extension magnet now, which I use to pick up nails and screws that I always drop on the floor. And now I'm using that, and I've just put a little hook on it. Let me show you a close-up of it. This is what it looks like, and of course it's an extension, and there's a magnet on the top of it, and I just put, with a little bit of epoxy and a dowel, I put a little hook in the bottom that I can now put my extension on. But watch how easy it is now to move it around. So with this now, I can go from tool to tool, and I don't have to try and overreach what I'm doing, because now I can just reach up. My remote is right handy. If it's in the wrong place, I can move it around, and it's easy to move it from tool to tool now. I just walk over, stick it onto wherever I'm moving to, and it's all ready to go. Quick and easy, and a nice way of having your remote quick and handy. Well, I got to get back to my project now. I'm Colin Canet for WoodWorkWeb. Thanks for watching.